Hey everyone, this is the video on how to build supersize these big cardboard pieces that we're making. So I'm going to make a wrench for mine. The example that I'm going to use today is going to be a shoe though, just to show you different things, but I'm going to make a wrench for mine. So I went ahead and just traced my wrench right on here, and then I measured my wrench. And my wrench is little, so I measured in centimeters. So you can see here, I went ahead and marked everything with centimeters, like you did in your drawing. Each piece, how big it is. I even marked how thick the thickness of the wrench is. The only thing I forgot to mark is right here where it says China, how big the China is and how big the circle is. But besides that, I have how big the rubber is, how wide it is. So I have every single piece for it. I also have this part where I started thinking before I cut my cardboard. I think I want to make these right here first. So the front and the back, and then I'm going to make the little strips that go around it to make it 3D next. Then I think I'm going to make this little part that inserts so that I can figure out how to do that, the missing gaps. Then I think I'm going to make the handle, and then I'm going to make the thickness of the handle. And I think I need about 3 of those. I need about 4 of those. I need 2 of these. I should have put it 2. So I'm starting to think how I'm actually going to build. And I really need you to do that before we start cutting cardboard. Then the next thing I did is how big do I want my wrench to be? So what I did is I grabbed a tape measure and I decided I wanted my wrench about 24 inches. So then my wrench is about, I forgot now, but my wrench total is about 20 centimeters, I guess. So I just looked on my ruler and let me show you. So I took my tape measure and I was like, okay, so I want it to be about this big. I want my wrench to be about 2 feet tall. So about. So what I did is, right here it says 2 feet, I noticed it was 60 centimeters. So then I did 60 centimeters divided by however long this was, and it was like 3 point something. So I decided I'm going to multiply everything by 3 because that's how big I want it. I hope that makes sense. So I took my drawing, and I have all my measures, and I took each one of these numbers and I multiplied by 3. So this is what I got. So everything, and I put it in pink so I wouldn't get confused. So instead of being 1 1/4 centimeters thick, my wrench is going to be 3.75. This part, instead of being 14 centimeters long, is going to be 42 centimeters. And that way I'll get to like my 60-some average that I want. So as you can see, I multiplied each single number by 3. So you decide how much you want your wrench or your object to grow, and then you multiply every single number by that, I guess, number. And then you decide, then you start building. So that's what you need to do first. Measure everything out, multiply by 3 or 2, or sometimes if you use a really big object, you just multiply by like 0.5, and then it grows quite a bit because it was big to begin with. So that's how I did this. I did a Converse shoe just because I think you guys will have fun with that. I love the wrench. That's what I'm going to build for myself. But I think you guys might enjoy something a little more interesting than tools. So I took a shoe, one of my students' shoes, and he took off his shoe. His name is Rylan. He let me borrow it. So I traced the shoe at the bottom, and I figured out that the whole thing, I want you to notice the difference. This one I did in inches because the shoe's a lot bigger. So I traced the whole thing. I measured the whole thing. And I figured out the whole thing was 11 inches by 4 by, here in the middle, it was 2.5 inches, and here was 3 inches. The shoe is already big. It's a lot bigger than my wrench. So the shoe I multiplied by 2. I did it in inches because it was bigger, and I multiplied by 2 instead of 3 because it's a lot bigger. So 11 times 2 is 22. 2.5 times 2 is 5.5 inches. So I did 4 inches times 2 is 8. So I multiplied every single thing by 2. So I hope that makes sense. And then here's the basic part of the shoe. And I multiplied everything here by 2 as well. So now I know, So now I know that the numbers I'm paying attention to are these pink numbers. I would encourage you to use a different color as well so that you know. I also know that I'm going to make 2 of these. I'm going to make 2 of these. I'm going to make one of these, and one of these. This right here is the front of the Converse. This is like the tongue part. I think that's what it's called. This right here are these. So I know I need one for each side. This right here is the bottom sole. And then this right here is the part that's going to wrap around the bottom. And then later I'll add my little decorations like the logo in the back and the actual Converse symbol. So I'll add that stuff. Okay, so I want to show you now how to actually work with this thing. So here's the part I'm going to start with to show you. When I look at this right here, the whole thing is 22 by, right here, 8 is the widest part. 22 by 8. That's how big it is. So I took my cardboard, and I don't know if you can see good in the video, but I measured a rectangle that was 22 inches by 8. So this is by 8 right here. Here, this 8, I found the middle, and I put a line going down the whole middle. All your pieces, I would encourage you to make a line going down the whole middle. Now, when I look at my drawing, down here at the bottom, see my pink number is 4 inches. So I marked 4 inches right there at the bottom. I marked 4 inches. Right here, it's 8 inches. So right here, I marked 8. Here it says about 4 inches down, which is 8. About 8 inches down, it's only 5.5 wide, because here's my 5.5. So I marked 8, and then I put here 5.5. Let me show you how I'm getting the halves. So remember, I marked my center, right? I figured out my big box of 22 by 8. Then I marked down the middle. Here it's 8. So then I took my ruler and I stopped at 4. And I marked my 8. Here at 5.5, the half would be 2 3/4. So I moved 2 3/4 and I marked my 5.5 and my beginning. Over here, it's a total of 6 inches. So I went to 3 and I marked a 6 and 6. So now I have all these pink marks. It tells me how wide this shoe's supposed to be. So now I can take this and kind of sort of go to those marks and draw what I'm actually going to cut. See right here, it doesn't go all the way to that little line, but that's just the line that tells me, hey, start drawing here and kind of shrink here when you draw. This is where the shoe will change. See, that bump's not supposed to be there, so now I know, because my little line here tells me how to follow. So that's the piece I'm going to cut for my shoe, and that's how you measure it, with that center line. Every single piece I make that center line. Let me show you another one. This part right here, the little front of the Converse, the very signature little plastic, white plastic that's in front, that measures 3 by 1.5. So I'm going to make it 6 by 3, because that's double. So let's pay attention to our pink numbers. So I made a box here. I don't know if you can see it. Is that better? Yes, that's better. So that's 6 by 3 high. So here's the middle. Here's 6, here's 3. So I found my middle. So now I can take my edge of 6 and I can just go like this. And then I can draw it. Okay? So now I know. I want you to see how I have this planned. Here it is. I drew one ahead of time so I can cut it for teaching purposes. But here it is. Look at my next piece. I hope you can see. I have it marked right here, all the way across. So I'm ready to make this right here. This part is this part right here. It's this part. The actual, like, stick my foot in part. With that one, I just want to let you know that I'm leaving a little extra at the bottom so that I can tape it inside the other piece. Don't, like, pieces that sink inside other pieces, make them slightly bigger than what they're supposed to be, so that you can actually tape them inside and people can't see your tape. So I'm going to make this part right now. So it says it's 6 inches this way. So here's 6 inches, because look, that's 6 inches. So here's where it's going to start turning and making the shoe part. Around here, it's 4 inches, so that's right here. So I know that it's going to go like that to make the shoe. And then down here, it's 2 inches. So I have my 2 inches marked. So I know that this thing is going to turn about right there. I just have to smooth out my line to make sure they make sense together. So that's the shape of the Converse. I know the one I drew looks like a high top, but I didn't actually measure a high top. The kid's shoe was a medium, kind of medium top, I guess you want to call it. So there it is. When I cut it, I'm not going to cut right here. I'm going to leave this extra right here so we can build with it. So let me cut that out real quick for you. As I'm cutting, I realized something. I can't cut the curve like that because I need this to wrap around the back of the shoe. So I'm supposed to cut here straight. Also, I wanted you to see my planning on my cardboard. I used all this space, and then I need a little skinny space that's 2 inches. So I saved this for it. I'm maximizing most of my space. I'm using this strip. I'm using this whole block. I'm using this, and I'm using that. Don't start drawing stuff everywhere because you're going to run out of cardboard. So plan out your pieces before you start cutting. That way you have enough cardboard. So I've cut up majority of my pieces, and I just wanted to show you something. The way you cut your pieces really matters. So you're working with this you have 2 cardboards in your supply pack. You have this big giant roll right here, and this corrugated cardboard, and it's like this on one side, and it's smooth on the other side, and you have about 9 feet to work with. And then you also have one really stiff, harder piece of cardboard. This I'm going to use on the inside of my piece just to stabilize it and make it strong. Where you're actually cutting on, unless you need a really stiff piece, use this, but you're usually actually using this. So I want you to notice the grain on how it goes up and down, and anything you want to twist, you need to cut with the grain up and down. Anything that you want to be real nice and solid that won't bend, you need to cut like this with the grain going this way. So let me show you what that looks like. I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe that this part of the shoe that sticks out is called the tongue, right underneath the shoelaces. So I went ahead and cut it out in 2 different ways. First, I cut it with the grain going sideways, okay? But I want you to notice that I wanted to fold backwards into the shoe a little bit. So look, the grain needs to go the way you want it to fold and bend. So like I wanted to bend around the shoe this way. So see how wrinkled it gets and how it's not bending nicely? That's because the grain is going against the bend. I wanted to bend this way, but the grain's going this way. I really hope that makes sense. So I made another one where the grain is going up and down because I want it to bend that way, and it bends beautifully. Okay, see how nice it bends? Real smooth compared to this one. So that's what you need to notice. Which way does your grain need to move? Now, because of that, and we only have our piece is 9 inches wide, sometimes our pieces won't be big enough. So always know that you can cut 2 pieces together and just tape them together. Okay, just tape them together from the back. If you want to be creative and your shoe looks like this, out because of the texture, then tape it in the back. One thing that I like to do to kind of trick a little bit is peel this part in the front. Just make it a little bit longer than what I need. Go ahead and peel this part right here. And I peeled it just about that much. And I'm going to cut this right off. So I cut that part off, and now I have this extra little flap. I'm going to grab some Elmer's glue. And I'm just going to put a little bit of glue here. And I'm just going to overlap it. And I have a pretty decent piece that I can get pretty big with if you do that little thing. And it'll bend nicely together when it's dry. So I'm going to do that. Since I want the smooth part of my piece moving out, I'm going to add a little piece of tape here and there. You're going to need a lot of tape for this project. So if you're up here for band or orchestra or whatever, and you want to stop by and pick up a little more masking tape if you run out, please do so. I just want mine to be strong because I like to keep my stuff and very sturdy. So anyway, now this will bend together as one whole piece. You might have to do that and join pieces for a lot of your pieces since our cardboard is only 9 inches wide. So there's that. So I made that. So that's really, really important. I want to show you that this I cut out to wrap around my shoe, and I made the grain go up and down so I can, rotate my back over here. Before I start peeling or whatever, doing this to this, I want to make sure that I trace it so that my front of the shoe to this part of the shoe is the same as the other part of the shoe. So please go ahead and trace this before you cut it. So that's just another note. Here's my base that I made, and I went ahead and cut it. It's quite large. So a little building tip just for you is to put tape and fold it and kind of like with your nails go back and, you know, make a little flap. I don't want the tape on the outside of mine. I want all the tape on the inside of mine. So it goes upside down, and then I kind of just pull it back. And I'm going to make a bunch of little tabs all the way around it. So I'm taping these with the sticky side down and then folding it up so that the top is sticky. Okay? So they go like this. This is the non-sticky, so that's sticky. I went ahead and made my strip 2 inches like it's supposed to be for my piece. I'm going to put just a little bit of glue. And my cardboard is not as pretty as yours because I'm not using the good cardboard I gave you. I'm using an Amazon box that I ripped up so that I wouldn't waste our supplies. As you know, we don't have that many this year because of our kits were so expensive. So anyway, I'm going to put glue all right here. I have the little tabs. And I'm just going to lift up my tabs. As I build, I'm lifting these little tabs. It's way easier to have little tabs than to try to tape them as you move on. Please remember glue, very important. So also notice that my tabs were super close to each other. That gives me a real nice stability. When I get done with this, I'm actually, when I do it all the way around, I am actually going to put tape on the inside like that. And you have to use small pieces if you want them to bend, where I completely sealed it. The tabs are only there for it to hold it in place for me. And I'm going to do that all the way around the whole shoe on the inside because I want a really stable structure. When I get done with all this, and I'm done working for today, and I'm just going to let it rest for one day because, you know, I'll come back and pick it up tomorrow. I'm actually going to grab a little bit of Elmer's glue, and I'm going to go ahead and put it right in that crease after the whole thing is built, so it can just kind of sort of fall in there. And it's not going to drip anywhere because the tape is completely sealed all here. Now, if I put it here where it's not sealed, yeah, it's going to drip right here. But if I have it here, it's not going to drip. It's just all going to settle in there and just get real strong for me. So I did that. I'm going to do it all the way around the shoe. What I wanted to show you, though, now it's going to be messy. I'll clean my table. What I wanted to show you was that I'm building from bottom up. It's really hard to build the other way with a piece like the shoe. So here is my actual, like, I put my foot in here part. This is the extra part. This is going to sink all the way in there. And I left this extra part so I could tape it inside. If I cut this perfect and just try to lay it in there, they're going to kind of be falling a little bit. And it'll give me a more realistic look to have the sole and the fabric going inside the sole. So that's why I left that little extra part. That's what I made with extra parts. When you add your tongue here to the front, it's going to bend like this and the tongue's not going to make sense to go forward. Remember that you can cut little notches in it when you're taping so that one side can go here and then the other one can start bending up just slightly over and overlapping each other to go wherever it is that you need it to attach to. So remember that. This is the part that's going to go here in the front. So I hope those are nice building tips. The other thing that I just wanted to show you before I leave is that my real thick cardboard, I'm going to cut it into little like strips that are this long and this long to stabilize my inside so this won't crush in. Then I'm going to put a couple real thick ones in between here, high up, to keep these two pieces from sinking into each other. So I'm going to put a little stabilizer, little bar right here in the middle. I'm going to cut one into a little arch. And I'm going to put a little arch over here in the front with this thick one. And it can be even two of the thin ones, but I'm going to put a little arch there so that shoe can actually land and not sink in here. So think about the little stabilizers in the middle. I hope that all makes sense, and I hope you really enjoy it. Thank you.